in Genesis 1, you know that chapter that says the word firmament 9 times and the word heaven 8 times? It's an important chapter. It is about creation. Well, for 38 years of my life, when I would read this or think about it, I would skip a couple verses in there because I didn't understand them. They didn't make sense to me, so I just said, they don't matter in my mind. Or, I didn't do this purposefully. It's just the way that I understood the book of Genesis. It was because of where we lived, okay? Now, let's look real quick at the verse that I'm talking about. And God made the firmament and divided the waters which were under the firmament from the waters which were above the firmament. So there's a divider of some kind. And there's waters above it, and there's waters below it. So that's in the Bible. That's in the King James Version, verse 7, Genesis 1:7. Verse 8, and God called the firmament heaven, and the evening and the morning were the second day. Verse 9, and God said, let the waters under the heaven be gathered together unto one place, and let the dry land appear. And it was so. And God called the dry land earth, and the gathering together of the waters he called seas. And God saw that it was good. Okay, my example is that I thought I was on a globe because I was trained to believe that since birth. And now when I'm 40 years old and I have much more ability to make a decision on my own where I live, I have concluded that I live in a place that's described in this Bible, and it's not a globe. And so there's the observable science, the observations that we can make daily. There's evidence all around us. Go to a lake, go to an ocean, there's your evidence of a flat earth, okay? That there is more evidence that is ignored. And it's ignored because it's a satanic dominion over our minds. Okay, it's not something that we're not being smart or we're not, we can't see, we're blind. No, yeah, it's true, we are blind, but it's because of a supernatural dominion that is over us. Okay, so then the reason why I wanted to say that is because of Revelation 13 and Daniel 7 and 8. They got these visions. John and Daniel had visions, and they explained them. And I see some, I would call it the same cognitive dissonance that all the flat earth people are aware of, that we see on these people believing that they're on a globe. Like, you don't even look. You don't even go out and test it. You don't measure it. You don't even do the math to figure what you should see. You just believe what you believed since birth. That's just the way that it is. So if the Bible's that way, we're going to miss the point. Okay? So we're going to very, very meticulously go over just a couple verses in Revelation 13. That I see people twisting, and I'm not saying these people are doing it on purpose. It's a supernatural dominion that is keeping people from considering this the way that I'm considering it. Okay, very similar to how people laugh at flat earth. Okay, Revelation 13 verse 11, and I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. Okay, that's the verse. That's the main verse we're going to look at, but we'll look at it a little more. But I'm just going to give you my experience, my personal testimony about this. Over a year ago, I was, for some reason, I made a connection to this. I became aware that SpaceX was now delivering cargo to the International Space Station. Big deal, right? Well, what caught my attention was that this capsule here that they're sending up there is called Dragon. They named it Dragon. Okay, coincidence, big deal. But it caught my attention, and I'm like, Dragon, that's odd. Of course, I realized flat Earth, and I'm going. So they got a big lie going up there, and they named the capsule Dragon. And all this time, I'm aware of the Bible. I've been reading the Bible for 30 years, and not that I've been reading it hardcore like I have lately, but I'm aware of these beasts. I've read about these beasts. I've wondered about them. I prayed to know what they were. I prayed to understand this. When I was 13 years old, I did, and then I kind of lost faith in it completely, actually, and for many years. And then flat Earth brought me back, and that's that. But so SpaceX Dragon, yeah. And it really caught my attention when I read the next verse and the next verse, 12 and 13. And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And verse 13. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on earth in the sight of men. Verse 14. And deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles, which he had power to do in the sight of the beast. Okay, so here's where the cognitive dissonance comes in. I beheld. That's the very main word of this video is beheld, a vision, visually. They were shown these things visually. God wasn't sending an angel to tell John, hey, make up a story that represents churches and kingdoms. No, that's not how it was. In Daniel, there's an interpretation for both of Daniel's visions in 7 and 8, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But in Revelation, it was a vision sent to John by a signified angel and shown as a vision. He might as well just have had something like this and said, hey, John, write down what you're seeing here. But John was being shown something. So that's very, 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 very important. Don't tell me that he's representing something, because unless it tells us that he's representing something, it's what he saw. Okay? So he beheld another beast. What's a beast in John's time? What's a beast? Is it a tree coming up out of earth? No, because John wouldn't call a tree a beast. He would call something that's alive maybe a beast. But he doesn't tell us what kind of beast. So we just know it's something that we assume probably has some sort of life to it. Some sort of, it's alive somehow. Okay? And it's coming up out of the earth. There's a few different ways to consider that, and just do that. Consider all the ways that we can. And he had 2 horns like a lamb. John saw this. So John saw 2 horns. So don't tell me it looked like a lamb, or Jesus is like a lamb. No. John said it had 2 horns. So if I had 2 horns, or if my tablet had 2 horns, okay, that would have 2 horns. If my tablet was telling you about the Lamb of God, and there was a verse about the Lamb of God, Would that be something that had two horns, or would that be something telling you about two horns or representing two horns? Okay, get it? John saw two horns. And in Daniel, Daniel also saw two horns, and he described them very clearly. And I'm going to show you the two horns. And the reason why this is something that I'm so confident about is because God shows us. God's shown me this in the Word, and it's in the Word, so you can't argue about it. You can argue about how the meanings of words is all. This is not an interpretation, okay? This is a comparison of a vision given to John and the 2017 world stage. That's what this is. It's a comparison, okay? And it's not an interpretation. If I was interpreting, I would be saying, oh yeah, these horns mean this. And, horns are governments or some. No, that's just, before it was unsealed, that made sense. But it doesn't now, okay? We have better sense, and our eyes have been opened to look a little more carefully at these things, please, okay? So, I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth. He had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon, okay? Going to my next picture. Okay, let's just listen to that verse and just use our common sense and keep things real simple, okay? I'm just going to put this here so you can hopefully see it, and I'm going to read that verse again. And I beheld another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. Okay? See those two horns? I don't know, maybe they're like a lamb, but it's two horns. And it's a dragon. Okay? See the dragon? All right. Now, we can't, like, when I was looking just at Revelation 13, I was like, wow, this is a lot of coincidence. That's about all I was saying. And I wasn't really telling anybody about this because I thought it was just something coincidental that I was noticing, and that was just really dumb, actually. So here's the logo on the side, by the way. That's the Falcon 9 rocket. It's a two-stage rocket. So, two horns. Anyway, two horns right there. So he saw it on the side. And actually, let me read you quickly just one verse, and I'm not going to do any explaining at all, except for the word ram in Hebrew is A-Y-I-L, and it means it's a post or a tree or a column or a pilaster or something strong. So a ram is something strong. So let me read you Daniel 8 verse 3, and I'll go over Daniel's vision another time, but I just want to read you Daniel 8 verse 3, and it might give you an idea why I'm seeing this logo, okay? Then I lifted up mine eyes and saw, and behold, there stood before the river a ram, something strong, a tree, a post, which had two horns, and the two horns were high. So he said he had to lift up his eyes. I'm paying attention to the details, and I don't discount them, okay? He lifted up his eyes, and he saw, with his eyes, he saw. And behold, there stood before the river a ram, which had two horns. And the two horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. That's Daniel, okay? Back to Revelation. And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. Okay. And this beast that comes up out of the earth, that has two horns like a lamb and speaks as a dragon, he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on earth in the sight of men. The Falcon 9, this rocket right here, it has completed successfully 11 now missions to the International Space Station to resupply and deliver cargo to and from. Okay, can't bring crew on the Dragon yet. That's Dragon 2, or Red Dragon, or Version 2, or Crew Dragon. They got lots of names. But as of now, there's been 11 successful cargo missions completed by SpaceX Dragon and Falcon 9. Okay. Now this is all deception, because that's heaven up there. Keep that in mind. God is up there on his throne. And so all this stuff that, all these logos and all these pictures and all these spacecrafts, they exist on Earth here, but there's no place for them to go. So whatever they're doing, it's deception. He makes fire come down from heaven on earth in the sight of men, and that's how he deceives the world. It says in verse 14, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles. So there's supernatural something going on, and it's making fire come down from heaven on earth. We could analyze those words, but I feel like it's like kindergarten if I'm going to analyze those words for you, because you get the point of what I'm trying to say. Making fire come down from heaven is something.
What? Oh my god, that's ridiculous. Oh. Holy cow, where'd it go?
Dang, come on. Come on.
I've never seen one this pretty before.
Are they going to slow down? There we go. Yeah! Oh, that was awesome.
It's making fire come down from heaven to earth. That's a very specific thing that has two horns like a lamb and speaks as a dragon. And in 2015, the Falcon 9 made a world record, first time ever in history, feat it managed. And it would be Elon Musk that is, when it says he, okay, because the beast speaks as a dragon, and okay, that's how it speaks with his mouth. Oh yeah, here we go. Let's verify this a little bit. We just have to look at the very first two verses of Revelation 13. Sorry. Okay, and I stood upon the sand of the sea, and I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and 10 crowns upon his head, and upon his head the name of blasphemy. 6 governments and SpaceX. They got the ISS. Okay, it does have 7 heads. Now let's look at what it says in remember the dragon, okay, and remember the 11 cargo missions. 13 verse 2, and the beast which I saw was like unto a leopard. The beast that I saw was like unto a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear. Let me explain that quick. Russia, the Russian Soyuz, is the only way to get to and from the ISS for astronauts, because NASA has a deadly wound where the shuttle program was retired. And the deadly wound was healed, but it's not healed yet because we just got this. There's no people going in that yet. So until Crew Dragon shows up on the scene, where's that? Here we are. Until Crew Dragon, Red Dragon, Dragon version 2, as soon as that's up in the air, that's going to deliver crew. So then the wound will be healed. Get it? Okay, now this is pretty sweet here too. And the dragon gave him his power, his seat, and great authority. Okay? And I saw as it were one of the 7 heads that were wounded to death. His deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. Okay, this is all literally what, if we consider the ISS to look like a leopard. Oh, let me go back to Daniel again. Sorry if this is getting long. You don't have to stick around, but it's just you can't show the stuff that you learn in like 5 minutes. It takes a second. Daniel 7 verse 6. Same beast. The ISS. You saw the picture of it. After this I beheld, and lo, another like a leopard. John said like a leopard, which had on the back of it 4 wings of a fowl. Those big solar arrays. And the beast also had 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. 1 head, Soyuz, Progress, and orbital ATK Cygnus. That's it. 4 heads. How come these guys saw this stuff so specifically, and you have a hard time believing that it's actually what they saw? Flat Earth should have revealed this to you, okay? Take these visions and read the words and keep them in context that they are a vision, visually seen with the eyes, beheld, okay? It frustrates me to see people misguiding themselves. They know what the word arise means. They know what it means to be lifted up from the earth, to come up out of the earth, to make fire come back down. I mean, Falcon 9 landed in 2015, literally bringing fire down from heaven. Elon Musk.
go.